It's the most wonderful time of the year. No, not Christmas, the start of the football season. And we welcome everybody to our QPR season preview ahead of 2025-2026. I'm James, and I've been joined by Brian and Joe to go over the pre-season performances, to look at transfers in and out, the QPR squad, and everything else going on in the world of QPR. And we'll also give our thoughts on the championship in general. And of course, at the end of the show, we'll be making our predictions of where we think QPR will end the season. And it goes without saying, do share your thoughts ahead of the new season in the comments and on the Hoops and Dreams message board. But if we start with the pre-season matches and the results there, we had two very odd results to start, didn't we? A 5-0 win against Stevenage, but then a 6-0 defeat against Castellon, a win against Toulouse, a couple of draws, finally a 1-0 defeat against Brentford. So, Joe, what have you made of it all through pre-season?
I mean, I must admit, I haven't seen a lot of pre-season. Brentford was probably the only game I really saw in detail. But it's a bit up and down, isn't it? Like the Castellon defeat was concerning because of their level in Spain is similar to ours. And you think, well, we should have enough given the difference between the wealth of the two teams, even in pre-season, just to do something. But it was early days in his reign, so I'm not as worried about it as I was at the time. The Toulouse result was an interesting game, wasn't it? It was quite feisty that game, and I think you saw more of our character in that performance. But the Brentford one and the way we conceded the goals against Heerenveen were big concerns for me.
Brian, how have you found the pre-season performances?
Yeah, I very much echo what Joe's saying here because we had those weird results right at the very beginning, which obviously everybody the alarm bells are starting to go when you're thinking this. How you can go from 5-0 up to 6-0 down, I have no idea. But then, as Joe said, the Toulouse game was a feisty game. There's no getting away from it. It was almost like the old-fashioned championship. And then you saw the progression towards Cardiff. You're thinking, okay, we know where we're going here. We can see the green shoots are there. And then against Heerenveen, it was pretty poor. I mean, I know Dembele and Benny got goals, but it was pretty poor. And then Brentford, the sucker puncher of that one, that was what, within 1 minute 28 seconds or something like that. We were down one. It was superb cross. I've got to say that really good diagonal cross, and loved it as a goal. Just a shame it was against us. But when you've got a makeshift attack with no strikers available, and you've got Morgan and Chair struggling up front against I think it was 6'3" defenders, or even if they work very very hard, the end product's not going to really be there. And we also struggled against their pace. I was really surprised how good Brentford were, and we struggled to get the ball out from the back. They adopted a high press, stopped us. There was nothing we could do. Then you got the injuries. That is probably as much a worry to me as the result. I'll be honest with you. If Dunn and Cook have got real problems, we're in trouble at the back yet again for another season. And maybe Dembele's hopefully just going to be a bit of a hamstring twinge, but you do worry about this. So anyway, we may be okay next season, but for now, who knows?
Yeah, definitely. We're still struggling with injuries. That is frustrating. There's so many players haven't even featured throughout the whole of pre-season. Others like Paul Smith, conspicuous by their absence. And for me, it's just been very, very hard to judge us because a high percentage of the games have been played without a striker. So it's not really a proper lineup. Unable to judge the patterns of play that the manager wants. We've had no focal point, nobody to hold the ball up. So it's quite frustrating because for me, it feels like we're kind of like still an unknown quantity going into the season in terms of how we're going to attack. Against Brentford, we had one great move. Chair finally got into a bit of space in the Brentford half, and he just headed off out wide, and then he gives it to Larkesh. We moved it back across the pitch and backwards again, so there was no point putting crosses in because there's no one there. All our shots are outside the box, so like I say, very difficult to judge us through the 6 games and some strange results as well. In terms of the overall tactics under the new manager, Julian Stephan, what have you picked up on, Joe, so far?
I was slightly surprised that he's gone with the formations that he's gone with. Because there's not really a lot of change in what we've seen before, particularly
Mm.
over the last sort of five years, really. We've been playing 4-2-3-1. It feels like 5 years. It might be less than, but it feels like it. And um, I thought he would be coming in to change the system a little bit. I mean, when you look at how he played with Ren, when he played a four, it was slightly a 4-2-3-1, but going into a 4-3-3, I think we saw it early with Ilias Chair dropping off a little bit out of possession and getting the ball a bit deeper. But we've not really seen that in the last few games, and that goes back to probably what has been said about the lack of strikers being fit. So it's more just when we've been more playing out based on circumstance rather than any necessary strategy or plan. But when I look at his Strasbourg team that played 5-3-2 a lot, or 5-3 and sort of one off of the striker, I'm surprised that hasn't been tried, because when you look at the Strasbourg team that he had, the elements of that team and the fact that the budget was significantly smaller tallies more with what we are as a club at the minute. So I'm surprised he's not tried that strategy more so in pre-season, particularly in like those in the Brentford game and the Heerenveen game, where things are getting a bit more serious now. We're 1 or 2 weeks away from the full start. That he's not necessarily tinkered with it too much. That suggests to me that we might end up in the this season with either more of the same, or we could end up 6, 7 games in, say we've not won anything, and he's panicking and thinks, right, I've really got to change this now. Um, all that strategy of signing players based on being able to play in a certain game model, that could end up out the window, and we could end up papering over cracks again for the rest of the whole season.
Brian, have you been able to pick up on any differences in the play from under Marty Cifuentes?
Well, it was interesting because at the fans forum, Stefan was at great pains to explain it's not about the formations, it's not about the strategy, it's about taking the players and getting the most out of them. I don't think we saw that, to be quite honest. I know he's got a greater emphasis upon fast movement up the field and maintaining possession even more than Cifuentes. But really, we only saw brief signs of that in the Brentford match. And I agree with Joe. I think the way that we're going at the moment, he could very well end up changing horses halfway through, November or something, and that's it. We're into the panic month when you get to November, and you're not doing that well. I am concerned. Yeah.
Yeah, well, Liam Morrison said a few weeks ago, and this is a direct quote, he said, it's going to be tough to play this way. Everybody needs to be on the same page. But for me, any differences are subtle, so I don't know why he was feeling that way. I mean, my main takeaway from pre-season has kind of been if you'd been in a coma since April, woke up and watched the Brentford game, I don't
Yeah.
think your first question would have been, has the manager changed? Because it's so similar. You like Joe said, the formation, the players, nothing's really any different. Maybe that's what the club want, that continuity. Um, I think the only difference is maybe, as Joe just said, Stefan, he said that Ilias Chair is going to play central, but it's hard to judge him on that because he's been playing basically as a false nine the last couple of games. So just a takeaway for me is, again, it already kind of proves there's only so much any manager is going to be able to do with these players and this squad. And I guess that takes us on to the players and transfers. And it's been a much quieter summer than usual. No major surgery's been taking place. Four first team signings so far. We had the three quick fire signings. Brian spoke about them on the summer catch up, Joe. So, what are your views on Poku and Benge and Adamson that came in first?
Athleticism is my main takeaway on that. There seems to have been a calculation, and it's something that I think as fans we would support, is that last season we didn't have enough athletes in the team. And then Benge and Poku will give us directness at both ends of the pitch. And then Benge should be able to cover space pretty quickly, and Poku will carry the ball forward. I do think he's a bit more of a dribbler than necessarily a runner. And that's why I would keep Paul Smith around, because I think at some point in the season you are going to need someone to stretch. I know that we've bought Burrell, but and that may be a replacement there. But I do worry that maybe if your front three is Poku, Dembele, and Chair behind the centre forward, that there's maybe too many dribblers in the team, and that when you lose the ball, there's quite a lot of players that are immediately out of position. Adamson, I think, is the interesting one more so of the other two, because he's a complete unknown to us. And I would say that he possesses the attributes of a fullback more naturally than perhaps Jimmy Dunn does. But you don't. I don't think anyone foresees Adamson coming in and being first choice ahead of Dunn at any point across the season, unless obviously Dunn is injured. So in that sense, is he just there as cover? Yeah, yeah, perhaps. I find the Burrell signing at this point in time a bit odd because I don't really see where he fits. Um, is he if he's going to play as a centre forward, is he going to be able to hold the ball up and bring the players behind him into the game enough? Because really, he's like a Vardy player. He plays on the shoulder. He wants to stretch in behind and finish at angles. So I don't really see how he fits unless they're deciding they're going to play him as a wide forward. Um, so I don't know about that one. In terms of I'm more interested in really what we haven't done as opposed to what we have. There's no necessary cover at left back, which is a bit worrying given that for the last few weeks we've not seen Escudinha involved whatsoever and only seen Larkesh and Fox has gone. I mean, Fox isn't a left back in at championship level, but he would still at least be a body there. I think we're short in centre midfield. I think any injury to Varane and Field leaves us particularly lightweight in there. I don't think we've got a left-sided centre half. If he's going to play three, for example, you could play Dunn, Morrison in the centre, and then you worry about Mbenge playing on the wrong side. Um, could drop Field in there, but then again, we've just said we're short in centre midfield, so we've got the exact same problems as we would have had under Ainsworth. We've not bought a centre forward, particularly when you go and sell the guy that finished top scorer in League One, and we can argue the toss as to whether Charlie Kelman would have been a good choice for us like next season. And actually, I probably agree that it is worth selling if he's not going to sign a new deal. But yeah, we've added like sprinklings that bulk the squad out a little bit, but there remains these massive gaps. And you think after last summer that Nuri would think, okay, they're the gap. We're going to plug those gaps first, and then go and then build from there. But maybe he's looking at it and thinking, right, we're going to use the money from Kelman to get some experienced Premier League loans once the Premier League season starts, because you've still got 2 weeks of the window left. So it'd be easier to judge come the end of August. But at the moment, yeah, it's a bit patchy.
Yeah, we'll probably circle back to a lot of the patches you just mentioned there now in turn. And first one, Brian, was of course Charlie Kelman going for around 3 million to Charlton. I think we all expected it to happen. Once he wouldn't sign a new contract, it was clear he was going to leave. And obviously, Romain Burrell coming in. Your thoughts on that exit and departure first? Or exit and arrival, I should say.
Yeah. If the plan was always to replace Kelman with Burrell, then it was inevitable he's going to be sold, I felt. Either way, the sale looks good, financial sense, whichever the person initiated it, whether it was Kelman or us. He may be a top League One scorer. Well, he was. But we should remember that he's never scored for us in the Championship. So he's as much an unknown, I think, as Burrell's going to be. And we have to make money. It comes always back to this with QPR. We have to make money. So no, I think it was a wise move.
Yeah, I think Burrell coming in is good for us to have extra pace up front, but does raise that question again, which was one we raised all of last season, is our strikers were so different. It didn't help the team when one was coming in, one was coming out. Jan Seller struggled. He was so different to Michael Frey. You have to wonder whether Jan Seller could still leave. Obviously, Ryan Coley wasn't even on the bench against Brentford, so you wonder whether he's still having injury issues. I think in an ideal scenario, Jan Seller will be sold maybe back to the continent, and then we can bring in another two strikers. So it would be Frey, Burrell, plus two new strikers that come in over the next 3-4 weeks. But it remains to be seen what they can do up there. But strikers, it'll remain a hot topic, I'm sure. And we talked about the strikers. The next one of the patches that we need to get onto, and it's the hot topic that Joe mentioned, is left back, Brian. It's a big alarm bell for me too. What about you?
Yeah, I'd be honest with you. I was sitting there contemplating after the Brentford match whether it would be a good idea for Morgan Fox to come back. That's how bad it was. Lakash didn't do that bad at left back, and in all fairness to him, he was left awfully exposed by Poku. He wasn't coming back and helping out. What he was doing was standing there and watching the game go past him. He wasn't engaging at all, which I know is what they want. They want out of possession. They want total engagement. So yeah, they'll look back at that, I'm sure, on Monday on the analysis room, and they'll come up with that, and he'll get a slap on the back of the head, and then everything will be fine. But yeah, Lakesh at the best is going to just about hold his own. Esquadina, I do still think it's a season too soon for him. I really do. But next season, I'm really looking forward to him being in that position. So yes, we do need a left back. Sides like Sheffield United and Southampton and otherwise are going to be delighted to come down that left flank. They'll be enjoying it. So I'm hoping that we're going for a lone player to fill that gap.
Yeah, I mean, Owen Beck would have been a good one, wouldn't he? He's just gone to Preston or Blackburn, or is it? Sorry, but Larkesh for me, he's just not good enough at this level. I want to eat my words, hopefully saying that, but if he's our left
Yeah,
back this season, are we asking for trouble, Joe?
Possibly. Particularly if you see the highlights of Abdul Fatawu playing for Leicester this afternoon, that's a bit that would be frightening. Fatawu up against Lakesh. Um, it's one of those, isn't it? Because you kind of need the young players to play if they're to go on to make the club any money. And Lakesh didn't have a bad season at Dundee, but it is a step up. The pace is quicker. Um, and you worry about the top end players in this division. I mean, there's talk of Max Lowe today, isn't there, from Sheffield Wednesday coming in on what would be a free because he has the right to rip his contract up as to not being paid. And I think, sorry about the noise. I think I think Lowe's a good footballer, um, and would be an improvement on what we've got. But my worry about the left, whoever plays left back, is we don't have a left-sided centre half to provide sufficient defensive cover behind them. So that's going to leave the left back even more exposed. And I think that's where Larkesh would struggle because if he hasn't got a Clark Salter behind him, supporting him, talking to him, he is going to get caught. Lowe would be a more sensible option, but I do wonder whether Max Lowe might have options that are a bit better than QPR on a free transfer. So I don't know. Yeah, I would definitely bring someone in at the start of the window. I was determined to go with the two that we've got because the young players need to play. But having seen what we've seen over pre-season, yeah, it would be sensible just to get someone in.
Yeah, I think being left back at QPR is often a thankless task as well, because another thing to highlight is the fact that our left wingers never really cover for them, so they're just exposed all the time. So it's not easy for Larkesh, but I've seen some people on our forum mention maybe Harvey Vale could be tried there if we can't bring someone in, but
Yeah.
wouldn't be much of a vote of confidence for Larkesh if we did move Harvey Vale over. But I'm being honest, I'm scared to death at the prospect of 46 games of Ziad Larkesh at left back. I know it's harsh, but that's just my feeling on it. And I know some other people have been scared to death at the thought of Joe Walsh being our number one. I'm not so worried about it. I think it's his time to be given a chance. What about you, Brian?
yeah. But there's a number of things that we've mentioned that you start thinking to yourself, what is actually going on behind the scenes, and that is one of them. Are we saying that Nardi isn't as good as Walsh? I mean, I really don't see that. I don't see that at all. I think the distribution of Nardi is far better than Walsh. I would say that probably in terms of reflex saves, possible that Walsh is better. We're soon going to find out, I think, unfortunately. But yeah, I wonder what's going on behind the scenes. There's so many of these ones, like Coley. Is it true that Coley's dad, is influencing yet again what happens to him, trying to push to the boundaries? You just don't know what's going on in this club. I mean, they're keeping it very quiet. I don't blame them in a way, but it is very frustrating for us sitting on the touchline. It really is.
It looks like Joe Walsh is going to start the season. Joe, is that something you agree with?
Um, yeah, possibly. Yeah, probably. Again, young players have got to play, and if he does well, there's a potential to make a sell on with him. I will add that Paul Nardi actually did play for Rennes for a little bit. He had a loan spell at Rennes. Stephan wasn't the manager then, he was in charge of the B team. So I wonder whether there's something behind the scenes that Stephan is aware of in his game that he doesn't like, or particularly maybe there's a clash of personalities, I don't know. But he did have a spell at Rennes on loan. He never played for him there. So maybe there is something that the manager knows that we don't. I will add as well that last season it was made pretty clear that Paul Nardi was a Marty Cifuentes signing. And when you look at our squad now, you see um, you see Nardi, Paul Smith, and Taylor Richards are pretty much the only three players in the squad who weren't signed by the CEO or haven't been given a new deal since the CEO has been there. So I wonder whether that is a decision that Nouri has taken, that Nardi isn't his man and that Walsh perhaps is, and that Nardi is maybe being squeezed out for reasons other than football matters.
Yeah, I think the club though overall maybe just decided the chance has got to come for Joe Welsh now. Like, if not now, when? And I
Yeah.
suspect in 12 months' time, we may see the same with Murphy Cooper when he comes back from Barnsley with his loan there. They clearly want one of those two to be our long-term number one. So at some point, you've got to give them the games to prove they can do it. Is Paul Nardi a better goalkeeper right now? Probably or certainly, but I do totally understand the decision they're making. Um, Walsh is more confident coming off his line too, I think. And that was something that Paul Nardi was starting to get exposed by teams towards the end of last season. So we'll certainly see how he does. But Brian, Joe mentioned we've still got these gaps in the squad. Are you expecting further movement and maybe us to explore the loan market towards the end of the month?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Joe about the striker. I still feel that there is room there for improvement. So yeah, left back, striker. The rest of it we can probably muddle through. I'm hoping that we at some point have more than two fit centre backs, and therefore we can enter the season with some confidence there. I'd hate to have to go out shopping for a centre back this late on, but you just wonder, don't you? How many injuries can you have as a club and just keep perpetuating them? It's just incredible.
Yeah, I think whether Jack Colback, if he stays or goes, regardless, I feel like we need another midfielder. I've seen some rumours of Yang coming back again from Spurs, but that's one of the areas of the picture we actually do have quite a few options. So, and I think if that was going to happen, wouldn't it have happened sooner because he was here already at the end of last season? Might have been part of that agreement. So, don't know how much to read into that. I think overall, when it comes to the squad in general, we just got a lack of consistency because of our injuries. It's something we bring up every season. Last season, we had 11 games without a win, then went only one defeat in 13, but then it was only 2 wins in 12 after that. And that's kind of a challenge for Julian Stephan. That's been a challenge for the managers since Mark Warburton was here, isn't it? That we just have a squad, might be okay to begin with, but you scratch beneath the surface and we can struggle very quickly. And hopefully this season we're not going to struggle more than we're hoping. But of course, it comes down to the other 23 teams in the league that we're going to face. Before this is actually our first show since Martí Cifuentes was appointed at Leicester. What did you make of his appointment there, Joe?
A little bit surprising, um, in the sense that I don't think he would have been Leicester's first choice. I think they would have had managers on the list that were higher than him. But I think Leicester are in a bit of a weird position because they don't know if or what the size of a points deduction is going to come at them. They are culturally in a moment where they are regenerating. Vardy's gone now, so it does take new players to step up and lead that team. They've also got quite a bit of deadwood. Um, Wilfred Ndidi's one of those. I always thought Wilfred Ndidi was all right, but he's never really kicked on. And I do think Yannick Vestergaard's another one, Wout Fast, and the players that have never really improved since being there. So I think it was a curious job for him to take because I would worry about Leicester more than the other sides coming down. I know on paper that their squad might look good at the minute, but I expect there to be quite a lot of turnover there between now and the end of August. And I just wonder whether maybe he's taken a bit of a poison chalice there. I also think, you look at the situation at Sheffield Wednesday, surely Danny Roll would have been a more attractive option than Marty Cifuentes, but you know, again, they would have had to pay a bigger compensation package probably to Sheffield Wednesday if they took him out of contract. I do. I just think it's a bit of a curious one. Like clubs like Wolves used to go for managers like Cifuentes, and you think, oh yeah, that looks okay, and then six to 8 weeks in, he's gone. I'm not saying it's going to happen here at Leicester, but if he does survive the season, he's done well.
Yeah, I mean it's a huge opportunity for him, so he had to take it, but it's a job where he has to achieve, otherwise he's
Yeah.
going to be out the door. There's no option. He has to probably this season get promotion, or he won't be there in 12 months. regardless of the squad, Leicester are probably going to be up there just because of how this league works. If you've got such a massive budget and the players they've got on paper as of right now, you'd think they're going to challenge. Who else are your picks to do well, Brian, in this season?
Yeah, I mean, you're right about Leicester. I might just add that Cifuentes taking that, it may be a poison chalice, but it could equally be the golden delivery to the Premier League if he hangs on,
Yeah.
which he wouldn't have got with us, let's be honest. Okay, I mean, you got to regard Southampton, Ipswich, and Leicester, I guess, as the bounce back candidates for the PL. I mean, they've got to be in there in the mix. But we've got other championship sides now ready to fight hard for those places. You know, we've got people like Coventry, Sheffield United, and West Brom. I mean, all of those could be in there in the top six, fighting away. Um, at the other end, I've got to mention that I do worry about Sheffield Wednesday. I really feel for them, and I wonder whether Hull and Preston North End will join them in being relegated. For once, you know, the League One sides who came up, you know, Charlton, Wrexham, and Derby.
Birmingham.
I think sorry, yeah, sorry. They'll survive. They'll survive the drop. I think. And the spend that's gone on with Wrexham and Birmingham this season, you've got to look at yourself and say, wow, they are really, really going to do well, or they're going to just fall flat on their faces. You've really got to wonder how that's going to work out. And Joe's right about the Leicester points deduction. That could make a difference to promotion at the end of the season.
Yeah, Birmingham are really in particular throwing money at it. Have you got any dark horses, Joe, that you think could be up there?
Oh, I think Ipswich will run away with it. I think Southampton will probably finish second.
Mm.
I like the look of Coventry. I think Coventry have got a lot of attacking options, and I think Lampard might be a better manager at this level than he is the level above because he has a better squad and he has a young group of players who would be excited to play for Frank Lampard given his playing history. I like the look of Millwall. I like the look of Derby County. I think Birmingham will finish top six. Norwich, if they can get a centre forward, because they've got to replace the goals of Borja Signs, and Liam Manning's a good coach as well. So I would think they'd be pretty strong. Um, I'm not so sure about West Brom, maybe Brian. I think the squad's a bit thin. And I think Ryan Mason could be one of those stars that burns bright and begins to fade as the season goes on. But I would be if I was West Brom, I'd be looking to get more bodies in, and maybe that might happen with the loan market. I think Portsmouth would be pretty strong. I think their home record's pretty solid as well. That could catapult them quite high up the table. I think John Swift's a very, very clever bit of business if they use him properly. Down at the bottom, yeah, Sheffield Wednesday are a basket case. Hull City aren't far behind in terms of the way that they operate. Yeah, Preston seem to be towards the bottom just because everyone else is spending quite a lot of money. So I always think Preston are the barometer of the league. If you're better than them, you're going to be okay. If you're worse than them, you're in trouble. But they've dropped down the table as teams have spent more money. So you are looking at them maybe now as if you finish above them, you are staying up. If you finish above them, you're going down. But I look at Preston's front two of Asmaic and Smith, and they're better than what we've got. So it's a bit worrying. Um, it's a bit worrying with that. I think Oxford might be the third team. I don't trust Oxford over 46 games. Gary Rowett is a good manager, but that squad's a little bit thin. Um, you know, on a personal level, I quite like Charlton to stay up because my granddad's a Charlton fan and I've been going there for as long as I've been going to Loftus Road. Although my best friend from school is a Charlton fan, and I'm getting messages daily every time they make a signing that they're going to finish above us, which is worrying me a little bit because I look at players like Rankin Costello and I go, hmm, we could have done with that. So so yeah, I actually think the bottom three are pretty predictable this year, aside from if someone has a big drop off like ourselves. But my eyes would be on the teams that can finish like fifth and sixth. Have a look at Millwall, have a look at Derby, and if you're stretching it, have a look at Portsmouth.
Yeah, I agree on Preston, by the way, because they dropped off a lot towards the end of last season. They're probably lucky to stay up in the end, and most of the signings have been frees, so they're pretty uninspiring. I read about Blackburn losing a lot of money, but their squad looks okay on paper still. I agree on Oxford. They're always going to be limited by their budget at this level, aren't they? I agreed with what Brian said before. Hull don't look particularly inspiring, but may have just a bit, just enough about them. I'm not as convinced by Wrexham as Birmingham. I have my doubts Phil Parkinson will see out the season there, because it wouldn't take much of a bad run for him for people to start saying he's taken them as far as he can, and he changed manager, and depending on who they appoint, what happened the other year when Birmingham appointed Rooney, they spiraled downwards. So they've got to be careful what they wish for there if they do make changes. But I still think they'll be okay, but I just don't think they'll be quite as high as Birmingham. And this league, we all know it's just crazy, isn't it? You win 2 or 3 games, you can go from looking at the bottom 3 to looking at the top 6, and it can go the other way just as quickly. And let's see what will happen now with our QPR predictions for the season. We've got 56 points in both the last 2 campaigns. Can we beat that, Brian? And where are you predicting we'll finish?
It's going to be really difficult this season to do. We've just discussed how weird it is, this particular lineup we've got for the championship this year. So trying to do this so early in the season is a bit like pinning the tail on the donkey with your blindfold on. But I think it really depends on whether we're going to endure another season where key players are out injured or not. I think that's really what it's going to come down to for us. And if you add to that the disjointed pre-season that we've had for the strikers, I've got a feeling that's going to be a while before they start kicking in, if you'll excuse the pun. So any prediction I am going to give is going to be really risky, but I'm going to go somewhere in the 12th to 15th category.
Yeah, well, hopefully target one for the season can be to beat 56 points and then see where we end up. But
Yeah.
most bookies have got us around 6th or 7th favourites for the drop. But where are you expecting us to finish, Joe?
About 17th or 18th, I think. Just simply because I think the bulk of the squads of the teams in the league are probably stronger than ours. And if Preston have got 2 centre forwards that are better than our 4, a bit worried about where the goals are going to come from. For me this season, though, the most important thing is winning your home games. We've had it for a couple of seasons now where our form at home has not been good enough. And I think you're going to watch a team like Portsmouth this season, whose home form I think will be pretty solid. And I
It
think Derby
will.
will be the same. Derby will be the same. I think both teams, you'll see them search up the division because their home form is strong. And, there might not be a lot between Portsmouth squad and our squad. But if you win in your home games, you're going to be extremely competitive. And for me, that has to be the priority this season. We have to win more games at home than we lose. If we do that, then we can finish where Brian says 12th, 13th, 14th. If we don't, we're bang in trouble. But I'm gonna predict low, but with the hope that it will be better than what it is. So I'm gonna say about 17th, 18th.
Yeah, for me, the striker and left back situation as it stands influence my predictions so much. If we can resolve that, there's no reason we can't be 12th to 15th. I'd have that same kind of bracket written down here, because that list of teams we've been going through pretty much named every team in the league. They could all finish anywhere, really. The league is just like that. But as it stands, I've got QPR 16th to 18th, so probably say 17th in the middle, because until we get those final pieces in the jigsaw that we've spoken about so much, it leaves us a little bit short, I think. And I just hope we're not struggling all season. That would be nice to at least just be ticking along like you just mentioned the home record. Hopefully it's not November, December before we win at home, because otherwise it is going to be yet another long winter. Definitely let us know your predictions in the comments, and I try not to plug it all the time, but do get on the Hoops and Dreams message board and spend the season on there with us and play the prediction games as well. And I think we've just got time for you both to give me one QPR player to watch this season. Who do you think, Brian?
I'm going to stick my leg out here and go with Dembele in the hope that he's got a bit stronger, a bit tougher, and he's going to shine down the wing. That's what I'm going to go Dembele.
What about you, Joe? One QPR player to watch this season?
Emerson Sutton. Let's see how many minutes. Let's see how many minutes he gets. Let's see what he can do when he's in the team. Ryan
Yeah.
Colley, if he stays fit.
Yeah, it's such a big question mark with him, isn't it? We're just not getting to see his full potential because he can never play more than 3, 4 matches and he's out for months at a time. I think for me, if he's fit all season, I think Liam Morrison's the next level defender. I really think if he can manage, let's say, 35 plus games a season, we'll have a lot of interest in him in 12 months' time. And that's it for our season preview. I'll be back later in the week with the first QPR preview show of the season as we focus in on the opening day clash against Preston, which is a key team, as Joe has just pointed out, because we've got to finish above them. Our podcast this season should have the same structure as last year, with a preview show for every match and then some general catch-up shows in the international breaks. Until all of that, thank you to Joe and Brian for their contributions in this show. Thank you for watching, and here's hoping for a hoopy 9 months ahead. Come on, you R's.